Friday night, kitchen table. Without even thinking, you say the exact number. 3 years, 2 months together, down to the week. That number comes instantly, no hesitation, the other number. What staying actually costs you. You have never once calculated. This is not the first time you have calculated a number down to the last cent. But you never ask the other question. What you do not know yet. That emptiness follows an exact pattern. A pattern already described 2,000 years ago, just in different words. What is actually happening here? This is not a video about recognizing toxic behavior. You recognize that a long time ago. The cold OK on the screen, where there used to be a whole paragraph, the excuse that no longer adds up. The tone that shifts without warning. You have seen all of this for months. The real question is never why you missed the signs. It is why you count the time together, down to the exact week, but never run the other number. You have already given plenty. 3 years. A shared apartment. A circle of friends who have long since thought of you two as a couple, not as two separate people. Leaving now would mean admitting those 3 years were wasted. And that thought alone, mixed with a silent shame you never say out loud, weighs more right now than everything the relationship actually costs you today. This calculation never spares sharp people. It hits exactly the ones who catch a coworker's mistake instantly, who would spot any contradiction in a set of numbers in seconds. Only in their own story do they look away, right where it matters most. This calculation is not new. Almost 2,000 years earlier, a man in Rome faced the exact same account, only on a far larger scale. Not 3 years, an entire life's work. His name was Seneca. For over 40 years he had built his way through the imperial court of Rome. Advisor, speechwriter, closest confidant to the young Emperor Nero. In the year 62 AD, Burrus, commander of the Praetorian Guard and Seneca's closest ally in court, dies. Overnight, the balance of power around Nero shifts. In his place rises a far more ruthless advisor. According to Tacitus, rivals in court begin plotting openly against Seneca. Seneca's rivals accuse him of being richer than the emperor himself, even as he preaches that wealth means nothing. Nero grows colder. For Seneca, the warning signs are impossible to ignore. And still, 40 years of work, a fortune historians estimate at several 100 million sesterces, a name inseparable from the imperial court. Retiring now would mean all of it was invested for nothing. According to tradition, as recorded by Tacitus in the Annals, Seneca goes before Nero anyway, and offers to give back his entire fortune. In his own words, roughly, "You have given me more than anyone ever needs. That very wealth now makes me a target. Take it back and let me withdraw." According to tradition, Nero refuses to officially accept the fortune and assures him, with sickly sweet warmth, of his affection. Seneca retires anyway, withdrawing almost entirely from public life to his estates outside Rome. 40 years of loyalty, a fortune, a name that belongs to the imperial court. Seneca lets go of all of it in that single moment. No fight, no public complaint. From acts like this, later Stoics distilled an entire teaching, the dichotomy of control. Some things are truly within our power, others never are. The 40 years in court, the fortune, the reputation, all of it already belongs to the past. None of it is in Seneca's power anymore. What remains in his power is only one judgment: what he does now. Behavioral economists call this calculation the Concorde effect today. Some also know it as the sunk cost trap. The more you have already invested, the harder it becomes to let go, even when continuing objectively costs more than leaving. The name comes from the supersonic jet Concorde. France and Britain kept funding the project for years, even though it was clear from the start it would never turn a profit. Both governments pressed on, purely because so much had already been spent that stopping would have looked like a public defeat. Seneca lived this exact principle 1800 years before anyone gave it a name. And you live it every time you count the time together down to the exact week, but never run the other number. But this does not explain everything. Two more mechanisms are working at the same time, and they are even harder to see than the first, because they depend not on what you already gave, but on what you still hope to receive, and on who you have already started to become. A second mechanism reinforces the first and works almost independently of the Concorde effect. Tuesday she is cold, barely a word for you. Thursday she remembers your anniversary 3 weeks early and cooks exactly what you love. Consistency never keeps you there. Unpredictability does. A reward that arrives without warning binds tighter than any reliable warmth ever could. In one of his letters to his friend Lucilius, Seneca writes, in essence, "Whoever stops hoping also stops fearing." Hope and fear, he says, are the same grip, just pulling from two directions. The warm Thursday is never proof of the real person behind the cold Tuesday. It is only the moment the mechanism is doing exactly what it is built to do. There is a third reason, quieter than the other two, and it works even after you already know how to name the first two. It is not just the time you already gave, or the hope that is still alive. It is the version of yourself you have already started building alongside this person. You have already pictured the 10th anniversary trip. You have already imagined introducing her at your best friend's wedding. Leaving the relationship does not just close the past, it also closes that future version of you that you had already begun to live inside. Psychologists call this identity sunk cost. You are not just grieving what you gave, you are grieving the person you already believed you were becoming. And that loss hurts, even when the relationship itself gives you nothing anymore. The Concorde effect, what you have already given, which feels too heavy to put down. The unpredictable reward, hope that stays alive, even though you saw what happens a long time ago. Identity sunk cost, the future version of you that you would also have to release. The Concorde effect only knows one account. What you have already given always weighs more right now than what staying actually costs you tomorrow and the day after. None of this means staying is always a mistake, or that every relationship with ups and downs should end. The real difference is precise. Normal friction is part of any real closeness, always inside a clear limit. Nor does it mean the other person is automatically bad. Sometimes two people with good intentions are caught in a pattern neither of them chose on purpose. Naming this mechanism is never about assigning blame, to you or to her. The only point is to give you back the choice that what you already invested had quietly taken away. A pattern needs a limit, not a verdict. If a very specific situation just came to mind, talk to someone you truly trust or a professional. This exercise does not replace that. It only supports it, and it is never a guide for diagnosing someone else from a distance. At first, 2 concrete exercises help reframe this account, without making you relive your whole history again. Seneca knew the second one in his own form, every single night. First exercise, the view from above. Imagine watching your situation from 10 years away, like a stranger who never lived through the last 3 years. Ask yourself from that distance, with total sobriety, would this person walk into my life today for the first time, knowing everything I now know about her? That distance alone is usually enough to see what the Concorde effect has been hiding right in front of your eyes from the start. Second exercise, shorter, the daily balance. Every night, 1 sentence on what staying has actually cost you today, 1 sentence on what leaving would actually cost you today. Not 1 word about the previous 3 years. Only today, against today. After 2 weeks, this balance reads far more sober than any feeling that a moment ago was deciding everything. This mechanism never stays confined to relationships. It shows up anywhere you have already invested something big. The same mechanism hits the co-worker who stays 6 more years in a position going nowhere. He has given 6 years and refuses to admit they were wasted. It also hits the friend who will not break an unlivable shared lease. She signed the contract for a full year. Moving out now feels like admitting failure. And it hits the investor still pouring money into a sinking stock the same way. Every cold number has been speaking against him for a while now. He has put in so much that selling feels like a final confession. The Concorde effect knows no love, no job, no money. It knows only one thing: what you have already given, and how hard it is to accept that it is over. You never stay because you lack intelligence. You stay because the past you already invested weighs more right now than the future you have not seen yet. And that weight, real as it is never final. It grows lighter the moment you finally name it out loud, even if only alone in the room. Next time a clear warning sign crosses your mind and you feel like letting it pass in silence, remember these 2 mechanisms, one after the other, calmly. Not to force yourself into any specific decision, only so that whatever you decide actually comes from you and not just from the weight of the past. Back to that kitchen table, to that number you almost count on autopilot. 3 years, 2 months, still in your head. This time you do not push the number away right away. You sit, just for 1 breath, with the other account and ask yourself what staying actually costs you today, not yesterday. What you gave yesterday never decides what you still have to give today. That is exactly what Seneca knew in the instant he let 40 years go without a fight. Think of one real person. If someone just came to mind who would run one of these numbers instantly and never the other, send them this exact video before you keep scrolling. What account are you running right now down to the last cent? And which one have you never run at all? Write in 1 sentence which of the 3 is yours: the Concorde effect, the unpredictable reward, or the future version you are afraid to lose. On the Quiet Stronghold, we take apart a mechanism like this every week, in full detail.